how to preserve your recovery during the holidays. Whether you're in addiction recovery, recovery from codependency or food addiction or gambling, the process is pretty much the same. But the thing is the holidays can be a tough time, and it can be a time that people relapse because they don't have enough tools to get through it. Or maybe you're newly in recovery and you're not really sure what to do. So in this video, I'm going to teach you 5 things you can do to preserve your recovery during the holidays. But first, if you're new here, my name's Michelle Ferris. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I love helping people create relationships that work by learning the simple skills without sacrificing their big hearts. So first, you need to define your goal. What behavior do you want to avoid this holiday season? Because that's going to dictate your plan. And depending on where you're at in your recovery, it might not be just staying sober. There might be other factors. If you're in early recovery from substances like alcohol, pot, pills, drugs, food, the goal is going to be sobriety, because that's the win for you, is to be able to get through the holidays without using to dull the feelings and escape the pain. And if it's from codependency, it's going to look different. You might find that you want to focus on self-care and boundaries and not worrying or helping others to the point of exhaustion, because that's what codependency recovery looks like, is possibly doing less for others and doing more for you. Now, if you know the goal, this is going to be really key. If you're a seasoned old timer in AA and your sobriety is solid, but you've noticed you've gained 30 pounds in recovery and you really want to start looking at the food, that might be your issue, to eat no sugar or stay away from individual binge foods. Depending on where you're at in recovery, you might have a new goal, okay? So I want you to be really clear on what that goal is. Okay, number 2, plan ahead, okay? I know you've probably heard this before, but when we don't plan, we plan to fail. So it's really, really important. And honestly, this isn't going to take you much time. Maybe 15, 20 minutes of talking it out with somebody or doing some writing. Because if you can plan out what's going to work for you, your likelihood of success and avoiding relapse goes way up. But what I find is most people tend to think, especially in early recovery, oh, I'll wing it. I'll do okay. I've been doing my meetings. I've been doing my steps. And the problem with that is that they get into really sticky situations without realizing it, and then they have a choice to make and they don't know what to do. So they typically tell themselves, I can handle it. I can have just one. Maybe they just want to have one toast at midnight, or they want to eat a little bit of sugar, or they want to see an old ex that is really toxic for them. So we justify it by saying, I can do this, without running it by our support system. That's what's called self-will run riot. We think we can control it on our own instead of relying on our recovery program to get us through. So that's going to be really key. I guarantee if you take 15 to 20 minutes to create a plan for yourself, that's going to help. Now, number 3 goes along with what you're going to need to address in the plan, which is identify your relapse triggers. For instance, who are those people that you tended to use with that still pressure you to have that drink or smoke pot or eat a bunch of sugar? Or are there certain situations that trigger you? Maybe seeing family brings up a lot of painful memories and a lot of relationships that haven't gone well because of your past behaviors. So you might have to look at, how are you going to deal with that? How are you going to deal with certain situations that tend to trigger intense emotion or old resentments that haven't been worked out yet? That's why I'm going to offer my holiday healing guide, so that, and I'm going to do that at the end, because honestly, if you can do some prep work emotionally before heading into the holidays, for instance, if you're in relationship recovery, codependency recovery, you might have to look at, what are those relationships that are really painful for you? And how can you do a little bit of work before heading into the holidays so that you can have a different perspective? And that's what my guide's going to help you do. Number 4, reason things out with someone else, okay? Take your plan with your triggers and talk it out with your sponsor if you have one. Hopefully you have one. If you don't, now is probably a really good time to get a temporary sponsor, or a mentor in recovery that you know has a solid recovery program. They have what you want. Don't just go to somebody because they're your friend. Go to somebody you trust that has gotten through the holidays before, has some joy, has some serenity, and they have what you want. Because if you can reason things out with someone else, that's going to help you solidify your plan and really be ready. Because I can make a plan by myself, but it really takes me sharing that plan with a trusted member of the program for me to get that valuable feedback to say, okay, you know what? Maybe they're going to give me some tips that I didn't think of. Or maybe they're going to look at my triggers and say, well, have you thought about this? And that's why reasoning things out is so important, because the disease lives in isolation. So we don't want to be doing this process by ourselves. We want to be doing it with other people. Now, number 5 is you got to keep up with your meetings. I can't tell you how many people end up not going to as many meetings from early November to mid-January because they're busy. And you know what? I get it. We're all busy during the holidays with the shopping and the getting ready, and maybe we're having family coming, or maybe we're going to be traveling. And all of that is fair, but that doesn't mean missing your meetings is okay. Because when we miss our meetings, our serenity goes down. We start to get more irritable and discontent. And I don't want that for you heading into the holidays. And you know, the great thing about what came out of the pandemic is that people are really familiar with Zoom meetings. So even if you're really busy, get to a Zoom meeting, get to a phone meeting. They're everywhere now. There's no excuse for not hitting a meeting. Now, again, this is going to look different depending on how long you've been in recovery. If you've been in recovery 20, 25 plus years, you might only need 1 or 2 or 3 meetings in a week. But if you have less than 10 years, especially from addiction recovery, I would absolutely suggest a minimum of 4 meetings a week during the holidays, because stuff's going to come up for you when you go home. Stuff's going to come up during the holidays that you may not anticipate. And if you are solid in your recovery and you've been listening to people talk at meetings, they're going to be talking about the holidays too. So you're going to get some great ideas from them. So it's really, really important to stay plugged into your meetings. And again, I know that can be hard. We get busy, but with Zoom, there's no reason you can't plug into a meeting at any time during the day, okay? These are 5 things you can do to ensure and preserve your sobriety, whether that's emotional sobriety or sobriety from substances. This is going to be really key for you. If you have some hurtful relationships and you really are not looking forward to seeing certain people in your family or certain friends, get my relationships guide for holiday hurts, because that's going to help you. It's kind of like a mini 4th step. It's going to walk you through the process of identifying and healing some of the hurt by yourself before you even get to the holiday. And that's going to really help you. So take care. Happy holidays.